What is the mood among Conservative MPs when you speak to them privately about this kind of polling?
I mean, it's really quite a dire and bleak mood in Westminster at the moment and has been for quite some time because this isn't the first poll that has suggested something like this. I mean, it's the first time we've heard them clinging on to maybe less than 100 seats, but it's definitely not the first really bad poll that we've had for the Conservative Party. So the mood is generally quite bad. But are still some really quite hopeful Conservative MPs amongst them who still think that there is a chance that the wipeout may not be as bad as some of these polls are predicting. Lots of them saying that this is just actually more just damage control and that they actually might pull through a bit more in the end.
In some ways, Alicia, you and I have spoken about the polls so many times. This comes on the back of that YouGov poll, which there was some better news for the Conservatives going up some 2 points. We had John Curtis saying there's a 99% chance of Labour forming the next government as well. In some ways, could this help the Conservatives? Because people looking at this thinking, well, I don't want a Labour government, does it maybe change the way that they might vote?
I mean, in a way, but also lots of people are even saying that actually losing this election might not be the worst thing for the Conservative Party either. You know, they've been in power for quite some time now, and whilst you're in power, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to kind of regroup and recalibrate and kind of formulate your ideas for the future. So lots of people are saying that actually this could somehow work in their favour in the long term. Obviously, that's slightly clutching at straws because at the end of the day, losing an election is not a good thing for any party on face value. But that's definitely a theory that lots of them are clinging on to. The other really interesting thing about this poll, I think, is the types of people who might be losing their seat. I mean, even the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, we talk a lot about who could replace him as the next potential leader of the Conservative Party, but I think we forget how much it actually really banks on who's actually left and who's viable as an option after the election crops up, and lots of them might potentially lose those seats.
And Alicia, polls like this, will they have any sway whatsoever in Rishi Sunak's decision on when to hold that general election, or do you see it still happening at the end of the year?
Well, we're actually hearing that lots of Conservative MPs are now actually trying to pressure Rishi Sunak into holding an election as well, because for some time now it's just been Labour and it's been opposition parties who have been really desperate for that early election. But we've actually been hearing over the weekend that now there's lots of members of the actual government and of the Conservative Party who are just saying that maybe it's time and that actually the country have pretty much stopped listening to any of their ideas just because everyone seems a bit checked out and they want something a bit fresh and new and they want something to happen pretty soon.
So talking of not listening, insiders are saying that Downing Street is a complete mess. The Prime Minister himself is hangry. He's been fasting. He's angry. He doesn't respond. He snaps at people. So just in terms of what he is going to do, given the local election results, if they are really bad for the Conservative Party, what does Rishi Sunak do then? Does he then say, well, we're going to wait and see if there's going to be some better news, or does he press that nuclear button and go to the country?
See, well, I think most people would say that if it's bad, you should probably just call it there and then because it doesn't really seem like it's going to get much better if it's bad at this point. But I think from his and the government's logic, it will be the opposite. I think they'll say, OK, we can't call an election in the wake of this bad result from the locals. Let's wait. Let's see if we can build on that. Let's see if we can improve and push it to a bit later down the line in the year. I think probably much to the public's frustration. I think lots of the public definitely feel like they have just really had enough and they just want an election sooner rather than later so they can actually have their say in what happens. But I definitely think that will be the logic that is used by Rishi Sunak.